Hello there. My name is Emma Schwartzmiller. I'm a freshman history major working under Dr. Julia Faustino on research involving communication and community resilience in West Virginia during COVID-19. COVID-19 has undeniably had a major impact on every aspect of our daily lives. The particular point of interest in this research is communities, not just in the geographical sense, but also communities centered around profession, interests, and other defining characteristics. By looking at the way these communities function, whether it has changed or not throughout the pandemic, we are able to see if some communities show increased activity while others have found themselves being drawn to a halt. This also shows insight into the state of the individual, what they are feeling, and how they are coping during this time period. When looking specifically at geographical communities, studies have shown a correlation in COVID-19 cases and deaths in more urban areas. Although there was an initial jump in numbers in these urban areas, as the pandemic continues on, rural areas have shown a drastic increase in cases and have a high number of deaths. This is in no way saying that urban communities foster more resilience than rural areas, but it does show that location and population has a great impact on the spread of disease and the resources made available to individuals. The idea of resilience is that individuals are able to adapt and return to norms they once had following any type of disaster. This resilience can occur on a multitude of different levels, such as individual, community, state, national, or global. In this study, resilience across each of these levels is looked at, but with a main focus on community resilience. This is the notion that individuals of the community, whether it be geographical or otherwise, come together in order to work through a disaster. These members of the community are then able to revert back to these old norms that were experienced before the disaster happened. Monongalia and Taylor County are nestled in north-central West Virginia. The northern Monongalia County line forms part of the northern West Virginia border. But Taylor County falls south of Monongalia County, with Taylor County touching Monongalia only on Monongalia's most southern portion, and is separated from the rest of Monongalia County by Marion County. Although these two counties rest close together geographically, there are major differences in the communities of them, which is why these specific counties were chosen for this study, as we get the urban look from Monongalia and the more rural perspective from Taylor County. Since community is the main focus of this study, our targeted audience was that of community leaders, this being any prominent figure in the community, someone who holds a position or is just respected in the community. We identified these leaders in both Monongalia and Taylor counties. In-depth interviews were then conducted in order to receive the most information from the individual participants. This was done to gain insight on their thoughts towards community resilience in their county in conjunction with COVID-19. Every interview was recorded and later transcribed with consent from the participant. The interviewer followed a script that allowed them to guide the interview to truly see the participants' true feelings about certain subjects. This method was chosen because each individual interviewed had a unique point of view and experiences involving COVID-19. In order to ensure that we had a variety of different opinions and participants, a database of community leaders was created for both Mon and Taylor counties. Each county has sections dedicated to different categories based on what sector of the community they served. From mental health to education, we were able to build out multiple contacts that would go on to participate in future interviews. After we had reached out to all of these individuals, we waited to hear back from them to see if they wanted to schedule an interview. If not, we continued down the list of possible interviewees until we were able to say we had heard from a spectrum of different people who had a variety of opinions. Which leads to the next section of methodology, which deals with coding of themes found in these interviews. Once these transcripts are clean and all field notes from the interview have been uploaded, which is still ongoing, the researchers, through the use of finding inductive and deductive themes to generate codes, will be able to find these initial codes and transform them into broader themes, to then go on and find these representative quotes that truly define these big overall themes. This will be organized in a shared Google Drive spreadsheet. Furthermore, researchers will be engaged in extensive peer debriefing throughout the data analysis process, in person and through email. The researchers will then review the themes and meet to define and name the final themes, which will then be recorded in the final results. Since this research is ongoing, there has yet to be a deep reflection and analysis period. However, with the initial data analysis, has been able to provide the much-needed insight and understanding of the role of communication in communities, especially when it's involving such a major public health crisis. As interviews continue and more data is collected, there is hope to build off this initial finding. The second component of the research project uses photo voice, which is a form of photojournaling that can act as an accessible participatory research action activity. Photo voice is used to actively engage participants who may have not been able to participate in research previously. Photo voice is a qualitative PAR method originally designed to take the power of the image and the participants' own viewpoints to advocate for local policy change. It engages community members whose voices are not typically heard in the participatory process to identify, represent, and change their community through photography, dialogue, and action, which coincides perfectly with the study as we aim to see the changes these communities have faced during COVID-19 and how they were able to build up community resilience. To begin the process of photo voice, participants are chosen through whatever selection process the study may be using. Oftentimes in research, sampling is what is typically used. But other methods have also been used in previous studies, such as trying to recruit participants using flyers, contacting small groups, working with community planning organizations, placing advertisements in the local newspaper, as well as the word of mouth. Participants then attend information meetings where they learn what photo voice is and what is to come in the study. They are then given a prompt to which will guide their photo taking. In recent years, this has often looked like photography through their smartphones. Participants are then given a time frame, a set number of photos, and begin capturing their journeys. In terms of data collection, many scholars have used a variety of methods. In the case of our study, it is still yet to be determined what method we are going to use. For the purpose of the study, we are still in the deliberation process of how we are going to approach using photo voice, with research being done about different platforms to use and methods used in other studies. When this portion of the study begins, it is hypothesized that we will be able to see the differences between these two communities in terms of resilience, as well as the previous themes pulled from the in-person interviews. This study is working to close the gap of research involving community resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic between urban and rural communities within West Virginia, examining changes in how these communities have functioned during the pandemic, what coping mechanisms have been enacted in the community, and how this experience and changes will affect the community function. Moving forward, there will be another component of research being conducted, where we'll be using photo voice in order to allow people in these communities to communicate through photos of what resilience is to them. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below this video, and I will answer it to the best of my ability.